Welcome to this episode where we are going to tell you exactly, step by step, how to do shadow work. We are mainly aiming this episode at the beginners. However, if you have been doing so-called shadow work for years, but not seeing much results in terms of tangible shifts in your life, stay tuned because you are going to uncover certain aspects of it that you may not be aware of it.
So no matter what stage of spiritual journey you're at, there's going to be something in this video for everybody, and there'll be solid techniques that you can take away today to start to accelerate your shadow work and head towards unconditional love and enlightenment. We hope you enjoy. Welcome to the Architects of Destiny podcast, where we bring together wisdom from galactic star nations, as well as very down-to-earth practical insights to accelerate your energetic mastery and spiritual growth trajectory. Tune in to receive the energetic tools you need to step into your divine role as an architect of destiny, to create the life of your desires and co-create the new earth that we can all be proud of.
So let's dive deep into the important aspects of shadow work. First of all, we're going to explain what it is in our own experience. It's not going to be some university lecture about shadow work. It's going to be what we as human beings and as spiritual practitioners and facilitators understand as shadow work. Number two, you are also going to learn why actually do it, what's the whole purpose of it, and what you can expect as a benefit. And finally, we are going to dive deep into how the techniques and methods you can use right away after this video to actually accelerate your spiritual growth and your highest timeline of abundance, because little sneak peek, that's what waits you at the end.
So don't forget to subscribe. So go to the top of the video, click the icon, and make sure that you're staying up to date with every single video from our channel. But please, if you need to, grab a pen and paper, make some notes, because what the content we're going to give you in this video could be life-changing. We hope you enjoy.
So let's start with, what is shadow work? How would you define it, Aaron?
So shadow work is essentially, the clue is in the name, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. Shadow work. So you're working on the aspects of yourself, which are the shadows. And what this are parts of you that are left from experiences that you've been through before. Now, in this video, we're not particularly going to dive into sort of healing the ancestral line and things like this, but we're talking more about healing your body. So essentially, everything that you've been through that's hurt you, and 3D and the matrix as such is it can be hard on us, and we've been through so many situations which have hurt us in the past. If you cast your mind back now to every single situation that's hurt you, and you were to start to make a note of all of this, you'd probably have pages and pages and pages. We're all the same, right? Going right back to childhood up to the present day. Now, every single situation that you go through that you've experienced pain and trauma, this pain and trauma is stored as frequency within the organs of your body. And the whole purpose of shadow work is to actually go back into the stuff that's hurt you, to dive into those situations from the past, and actually start to transcend these emotions and release them from the body. So I have this little saying, which is feeling is healing. So if you're feeling it, you are healing it. So it's about going back to all the stuff that within deep down that you never wanted to go back and face again, being brave and courageous enough to go back there one more time and to start to engage with the things that have really hurt you deep in your life. And what happens is, once we start to do this, all of this frequency starts to release itself from our organs, and we actually start to liberate our body. And the good news is that when you actually start to do this, that your frequency signature naturally starts to increase, doesn't it?
Yeah, so just maybe to dive a little bit into it, because you're using the word body a lot. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands this doesn't heal just your physical body. So it's not like a technique for your kind of ailments, although shadow work can in many occasions actually help with physical healing. But It's more emotional healing and it's more liberation. So most people, and this is how sad it is. Most people in this today's world walk wounded with festering, smelling wounds. And what happens when you're walking wounded? You are extremely sensitive, and all it takes is a slight touch on your wound, and it's like stepping on some kind of painful part of you. And what happens? Poof, eruption. Some kind of emotional overreaction, whether it's anger, whether it's upset, whether you feel offended, whether you feel indignant, whether you feel deeply hurt. It's just that overreaction. So rather than coming from a place of, neutrality and shrugging things off, you are really deeply upset. And you don't even know sometimes why it's so upsetting. And, we see it all of the time. Sometimes maybe it's difficult to see it in ourselves, but we can easily see it in other people, where it's like something that was completely innocuous and innocent caused such an overreaction. I've had an example where I asked a very, very simple message to someone who's managing our kind of community about when will the swimming pool be ready. It was just a question. When do you anticipate the end of the works? Goodness me, the abuse I received. And it's like a mature mind was that he erupted because probably he felt she tried to imply I'm incompetent or might not do it quick enough. It was just a factual question. There was nothing there. And that was an example of how wounded we walk in when something we read between the lines, we kind of see a threat everywhere, we feel contraction in our body.
Nervous system activates like this. And, the triggers essentially are little clues. So they're never nice when we get triggered. And there's this huge, overwhelming physical reaction around something innocuous. But what that is, we want to be thankful for every single trigger that comes up, because it's a big clue as to some unhealed part of ourselves. So, if you're wondering, I get a lot of questions on social media and stuff about, how do I even start shadow work? How do we even begin this process? And you only know what you know at this point. So if you've been divinely guided to this video on YouTube, the chances are that you're being kind of nudged towards this healing journey. So how do we begin it?
However, before we begin it, there's an important thing that I want to say. Why do we even do it?
Okay.
Before the how comes the why. Because, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you're walking wounded and you've got this really sensitive parts of you that keep really overreacting in many circumstances, healing these wounds will make you literally pretty impregnable to influences. You will not say, I just don't care what people say, but you actually do. You will literally start caring less. And you will also, by doing your own shadow work, gain a deep understanding of the kind of traumas, issues, hurts, and wounds that other people are dealing with. And you will have so much more compassion to another human being who has not embarked on this journey, because you will also see that many of the reactions, conflicts, problems arise just from touching old wounds. But there is a much more, I would say, attractive aspect of doing shadow work. Is you are overcoming your own limitations. So, for example, I work in a capacity of a conscious business coach. So a lot of my clients come with huge blocks to expression. And if you were in an online business, being able to show up on video, show up online, write a text from the heart, publish a post, put a picture of yourself, it's like paramount. You can't have an online business if you haven't got an online presence. And most of my clients, when they first come to me, they are scared to even show up on video. And there's this huge resistance going on. So then that becomes a platform to explore the shadow work. Because it's not just like, okay, why do you not want to show up on camera? There will be definitely something that happened in the past, or maybe in the ancestors' past, because shadow work can go way deeper than your own childhood. But today, in this episode, we're not going to dig into ancestral healing. We'll do it in another episode. But just to follow this example, it could be something that, I don't know, a person was ridiculed in the classroom. So now every time they're going to show up in front of an audience, they feel like someone's going to mock them. Perhaps they've experienced some harsh judgment at some point in their life, whether it was at work, whether it was in the adolescence or whatever time. So they're scared of judgment. And that unhealed wound or unrealized fear becomes a limitation that needs to be released. And the root cause of it needs to be healed in order to overcome this fear of showing up. So the benefit of actually doing that shadow work is, hey, I can actually fulfill my potential. I can be who I'm designed to be, not limited, not shackled by this fear, anger, or whatever that is.
So that's a practical reason of why you should do it. Let me talk about an energetic reason why you should do it. And I want to explain something to you here because I want you to grasp this concept, okay? So, and this, again, is going to open your eyes a little bit. So you need to understand, all of you, that every single person, all of us, we're all fractals of God. You're all tiny, tiny little parts of God, which is source energy. So you essentially have God within you. All of us do. God is unconditional love. Okay, you read it. I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, but you can read about it in scripture. God is unconditional love. So you have unconditional love within you, right, as a frequency potential. So therefore you have God within you. Now, what happens is when you heal all of these elements, what happens is all of these layers, like an onion, get stripped off. At the core of us, we are unconditional love. Basically, that's all we are. We're there. We just have filters of all of this pain and trauma sitting on top. Once you actually heal this and you get to the core, you reach this state of unconditional love for yourself, for the world, and for everything within it. And that's what's called enlightenment. So you've got lots of practical reasons why you would want to, go on this healing journey and do the shadow work. There's loads of reasons for it. Stopping you showing up in your business. Perhaps, it's made you underconfident in certain situations, whatever it is practically. But there's also a very, very good energetic reason that you should be doing this, because I've been through this journey myself. And I've healed a lot of the stuff that was in me. And I compare the frequency that I'm at now compared to what I was sort of 10, 15 years ago. 10, 15 years ago, I was just full of anger.
5 years ago.
Oh, more than that. But it was kind of like, there was a lot of anger around the relationship I had with my father. I had a very difficult childhood in relation to that. And I've come to, I can talk about it. I've come to terms with it. I've healed a lot of it. And healing, I just want to also just mention briefly is, don't think that when you heal something that you lose the wisdom that you've gained because of it, because you still have the lessons and you still gain the wisdom. You're just not emotionally controlled by it anymore. So I healed a lot of the stuff from my childhood. There was a lot of stuff through my life, which resulted in a lot of anger within me. So when you compare yourself having gone through the journey to how you used to be, it's like night and day. So there's a practical reason for doing it, but there's also an energetic consciousness reason for doing it too.
So I'll extrapolate on another benefit which is both practical and energetic. So basically, when you have stripped down all these layers of pain, trauma, wounding, all the negative, low vibrational emotion, and you do show up in a different frequency, bit by bit, your kind of whole outlook change. If we don't want to use the word, vibration, frequency, etc., we can say even the attitude. Your whole attitude changes because you're not expecting negative things to happen. You're not fearing stuff. You're not actually looking like you're gonna erupt and be angry. You start attracting totally different situations into your life. And people really focus on manifesting, and they're like, I'm just going to be manifesting, visualizing, and this is all great. But if you manifest, but without doing all of this shadow work, without working with the aspects of yourself that remained unloved and unhealed, well, good luck manifesting. If your frequency doesn't change, you will be winning little battles, but you are not going to win the overall fight or overall war. And this is something that you can easily overcome when you start showing up in different frequencies. So I give you an example from the business world. So maybe let's look into the world of relationships. So let's say you have dealt with a fear of abandonment. And we don't know whether it doesn't matter whether that happened because maybe one of your parents abandoned you. Maybe it happened because you were, I don't know, given up for adoption. Perhaps you had okay childhood and your parents both loved you and there wasn't a problem, but maybe you faced a heartbreak as a teenager and you kind of now showing up to every relationship with a romantic partner expecting that they're going to dump you. I had something like that. I had a good childhood. My parents, didn't kind of do anything extreme. They loved me and they were showing up for me. I certainly wasn't abandoned, but I got dumped by my first love when I was like in my early 20s. And then I was showing up to the next relationship expecting that I'm going to be abandoned, expecting that, I'm going to have my heart broken. Doesn't have to be abandonment. It could be rejection. It could be something else. But if you are showing up with this imprint and these negative expectations, it's almost like it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. Even if on a conscious mind level, you explain it to yourself, no, this time is going to be different. This time is going to be totally different. It's not the same. It's not really helping if your frequency haven't changed and is emotionally on a very, very deep level, you are still expecting a different outcome.
When we actually move into this new earth, it's going to be a completely different way of living. It's always darkest before the dawn. Love and hope are one of the strongest frequencies there are. You came here for much more than this. The biggest blessing ever. It's just incredible, but we need to go through a change because we've all been born into this system. Imagine your life which is completely loved. Imagine your life which is creative. Imagine a life which is completely guided. Imagine your life creating through flow which is completely abundant on every level. Imagine a life which is joyful, radiant, healthy, and exciting.
So that tells you why you should do shadow work. Now we want to move forward into how do you do shadow work? I get asked this all the time.
How do I get started?
How do I get started? How do I don't even know where to begin. That's the kind of thing. Hence the reason that we've titled this video what we've titled it, and hopefully this helps you because it's going to give you tools. So you can write this down if you want to, if that resonates, or you can just watch the video back, or you can subscribe. But how do you do it? So there's two methods that you can use to work through your shadows and heal parts of yourself. I'll talk to you about both. Now, there's two ways of doing it. One is what I call the analog method. One is the digital quantum method. I'm going to talk to you about both. I'll explain one and then I'll explain the other. So the analog method is the traditional method of doing it. And both, I just caveat what I'm about to say to you, both are absolutely valid. And there's no problem with you doing one or the other or both. Do whatever resonates with you. They're both very, very effective. It's just one takes longer than another. One's more of a process.
In fact, when we work with our clients, we use a combination of both. Aaron leans more towards the Galactic. I think I do equal measure of both.
That probably comes down to the masculine.
Smash it.
No, not even. No, come on. You can't be smashing somebody's healing. But it's, what I mean. It's a gentle process, but the masculine and feminine energy, it's kind of, I guess with masculine energy, I like things to be efficient and try and move through things.
I get it that.
And some people, but not smash something. But basically, you be kind to people with the healing process. But when it comes to the analog way, it's more of a process, and that's probably more of a feminine feeling into things. However, I'm going to explain both to you here. So let's say the traditional method. I'll talk to you the technique to do this. So what you would do is to journal. So you would go back in your mind through every single situation in your life that's hurt you. Now, you won't get it all in one go because some of the stuff won't come to your mind. So it may take 2, 3, even 4 goes to get it all out on paper.
440.
Maybe. It depends. Everybody's different. So, I'm giving you the sort of framework here. But there's no cookie cutter, as in, okay, there's 1 page of trauma, there's 1 page of this. Everyone's different because everyone's journey is different. Now, what you'll find is that you'll sit down and on an A4 piece of paper or your pad, you'll be journaling every single situation that's hurt you. Go chronologically, right back at your earliest memory. The next time you sit down and do it, something else will pop to you. Oh, I forgot about this. There was this person who kind of pulled my hair, or when I was in school, or this person kind of, beat me up on the butt or whatever it was. Go back through. So there'll be more and more stuff. So you sit down and you keep journaling until you feel like there's nothing else that you can remember. And then what you need to do is to go back in your mind. You might meditate or have your quiet space, close your eyes, and you go back to that situation that you journal, go through one by one. You pull up that situation with that person from that situation. It's like pulling up the memory of it. But what you do is as follows. So a big part of healing, okay, is being heard. This is the traditional analog way of doing it, right? A big part of you healing is being heard. So you need to pull up the person from that situation who was hurting you at that time. And what you need to do is to get them to stand there in front of you and you let rip. You get off your chest everything that you never got to say to that person in the moment. Now, this isn't out. You don't do that. You can if you want, but you don't have to do it out loud. You can internalize it. So you're sitting there quietly. If a family member comes into the room, they're not going to know what you're doing. To all intents and purposes, you're meditating. So, they're not going to kind of know what's going on internally, but you're expressing and you let rip in that moment. Everything you want to get off your chest that you never got to say, right? You get off your chest and you let rip. That person doesn't speak.
And by the way, I just want to add to it, with complex situations where you have, for example, had a long-standing relationship. It doesn't even have to be with a person. I had a relationship like that with church, that I got really badly wounded by. It wasn't enough to just go and meditate. I literally wrote pages and pages on paper. So you could do it in that meditative state, in this quantum kind of soup, or you could literally sit down and just express everything that didn't get a chance to be expressed on paper. And I remember doing it, I think, in relation to a couple of people in my life, and I was doing it, and everyone was just holding space, just sitting quietly and witnessing as I was scribbling pages and pages and pages. And he asked, "Is there anything more?" And I say, "No." And there was. And he's like, "Are you sure?" "Okay, there is." And then I wrote another page. And then he asked me, "Is there anything more?" And I think I wrote another 3 pages. And finally, it's good to burn or ceremonially destroy this kind of thing in a way that we are letting all these negative emotions out, whether it's in that quantum state, like Aaron described in the meditative space, or whether it's on pen to paper. Sometimes pen to paper is good because we're like externalizing certain disappointment, anger, shame, whatever we couldn't have dealt with. And that really, really, really helps. But what is important is that we're doing it once and for all. This is not for you to be coming. It's like if you think about a wound. Let's say you've got a wound and there was some impurity in it. Once you clean that wound, you just let it heal. You don't go scratching around and taking it. I'm gonna go through that situation with my mother or my father again and again and again. Just let it all out of your chest. And if you feel like it's not enough in one sitting, in one day, let it simmer. Let it happen over a period of a weekend or a few days. But yeah, just pen to paper is not a method. But going back to what you were explaining, there's only one part of it.
Yeah,
right?
correct. So Another thing with this healing process, just to bear in mind, it is literally one and done. So once you've healed each situation and properly healed it, you don't have to go back there ever again. So, you just need courage to go back there and deal with it one last time, and it's finished. It's not like I have to go back there and I'm going to have to keep going back over 6 months or a year. Once you've dealt with that situation and it's emotionally finished, okay? So the first part is you need to be heard. So you need to let it rip in that moment to that person who's really hurt you, whoever it is.
Could be an organization, group.
Doesn't matter, whatever's hurt you, whether it's a group, whether it's an organization or a person, whatever's hurt you, you have to express, right? Basically, everything you never got to say. And you keep going until you've got nothing else to say, until literally, I've said it all, there's nothing else I need to say. That's the first stage. The second, then what you do is that person that you've pulled up, who's hurt you, or that situation's pulled up, the person or the organization or the group, that has essentially served its purpose. You don't need them anymore. So you make that person turn around and leave the room, or turn around and get them to walk off. They're not there to say anything. It's like you are speaking to them, not vice versa. You're not having a conversation. This is a monologue to the person. They then turn around and walk off. And all that's left in that situation is you being there and your younger self at the time. So let's say the situation was you when you were 6 years old. Just a random example. The person, you are expressing to the person who hurt that 6-year-old. You expressed everything. The person's turned around and walked off. And then what you do is to turn to your 6-year-old self, and just what you need to think of it like you're coming back to that situation like a wiser, older brother or sister or family member in that situation, and you give your younger self everything they never got in that moment. So first of all, go over and just embrace them unconditionally. Tell them that they're amazing. Tell them that you love them. Tell them that everything is going to be okay. And that situation, you've come back from the future, and everything works out fine, and that you're here to help in that moment, and that just tell them that they're amazing and just send them unconditional love in that moment. And what you do is just spend some time with your younger self, however long it is. There's no time limit to it. You just feel into what's going to be good for you. And when you feel like you've given all of the support and you've healed that moment, then you can just wave goodbye to your younger self. It's okay. It's not goodbye. It's just farewell for now. See you later. And then they will turn around and go off. And then you can let that situation go. You can go back to your journal and you can tick it off the list. That's one situation done. And then you can move on to the next and move through.
Yeah, and before we get into the galactic way of doing stuff, there's the which is a little bit more quantum and more kind of
Jedi
accelerated. I also want to say two more aspects that. There is one, what we're talking about today a lot is just healing trauma and pain. However, there is way more to it. So, which is a little bit more, I would say, complex. And this is where when we work one-on-one with clients, that's usually our starting point. Because just the fact, healing pain and trauma is one aspect, but very often that pain and trauma if there was a big energetic loss, something traumatic happened, something dramatic, horrible happened, then this may have begun an energetic pattern, which is like a coping mechanism to that trauma. So, for example, or could it be, let's say, let's go by this example where we're talking about a heartbreak. So let's say you've been really, betrayed or abandoned or rejected, and you've got that pain and trauma, which is just the pain and trauma from rejection. That's one aspect, healing that pain and trauma, speaking to that person if you have any unsettled kind of debts, let's say energetically. But then there's also another thing, which is that sometimes that pain and trauma would have started an energetic pattern in the field, whereby because of your coping mechanism and because of you trying to avoid the pain, for example, you have had your heart broken, and now what you're doing, an energetic pattern that followed on is that you are the first to break a relationship because deep down you're fearing that someone will break your heart. So you need to then recognize and catch this pattern and say, hey, I can see that this initial wounding, this pain and trauma that I've experienced X, Y, and Z years ago has then kind of started this energetic pattern of I am ending every relationship because this is that younger version of me trying to avoid this pain of rejection again. And that is like the next step. And of course, we can take it even further because the same applies. Not every wound, not every trauma, not every pain started with you. Some of them started with your ancestors and you carry that stuff. But that goes beyond the scope of today's little training. We're going to cover it on another ancestral training. Could be something past life, and we're probably going to do an edition about past life trauma as well. So just to cut to the chase, please remember that there is a few aspects. One is healing you, one is being heard, but there's also identifying that there may be some energetic pattern that has stemmed from that initial energetically charged, painful situation.
Yes, I just want to point something out that if you're noticing when Ria's explaining something there that she's looking up here and looking down here and I'm probably the same. It's just we're connected to the quantum field. And most of the information we're giving you is channeled. So it's kind of, you'll see me look at the camera, but if Ria's explaining and she's looking here and I'm doing the same, it's like we've moved our point of attention or we're channeling from the quantum field. So if you're wondering, that's basically...
Yeah. I'm just like, scanning hundreds of client sets up for an example and
Yeah, so it's channeled, right?
It's channeled,
yeah. So, if you're wondering...
Anyway... So
galactic healing.
Galactic healing.
Galactic healing. So
let's go galactic. Yeah.
Okay. So this, by the way, I don't know of another person that does this. Okay, and I can comfortably say that I pioneered this method. And essentially, I had a download and had an epiphany one day, sense of knowing that you can connect to galactic beings to heal your pain and trauma. And so I started off working with Arcturian frequency. I'm an Arcturian starseed, and so it was really easy for me to connect to... It was the Arcturians, actually, that told me about this first and shared this with me. But then since I've done this over sort of thousands of sessions with people, it turns out I've started to work with other races too. And it depends on the races that you work with and the energy that you channel. It has slightly different effects. I'll touch on it slightly, but I want to talk to you generally about healing frequency. So what will happen is, the first method I've told you about is the analog traditional method. And you can see that each individual session, one by one, is a process. Depending on what you've been through, if you've got 5 or 6 sheets of A4 of situations, that is a process. That could take you months, if not years, to kind of work through. And that's fine. There's no problem. If you resonate with more of a process, please feel free. Use this method that we've taught you about in here. However, there's a quicker way. We're in 2023, 2024. We're in this age of everything on tap and digital. And so there's a quicker way of healing, basically, where you can condense timelines into just a few months. And you do this with galactic frequency. And what happens is as follows. In order to be able to access this, you either need to be attuned with that level of frequency, you either need to be shown how to do it, or you need to find somebody who can do it for you. Okay, so I won't be able to talk you through in a YouTube video how to do it. I would need to kind of either coach you or teach you how to do it because it's not like a 2-second video, but I'll explain how it works basically. So I would initially connect it to the Arcturians, and what you would do is to connect to that race's collective consciousness grid. So you're not connecting to a spirit guide, you're not connecting to an individually Arcturian or Pleiadian, you're connecting to their collective consciousness grid. And what you would do is go there, and first of all, you need to kind of understand what you're trying to heal. So you couldn't just go there and say, okay, I'm going to download and channel healing frequency, because it's too general. You need to specifically program it with what it's trying to work through. So you need to understand some of your shadows before you kind of go there.
So I'll give you an example. I channeled this frequency at one of my trainings for spiritual entrepreneurs. And I have connected to the Arcturians. I channeled this frequency in the form of light language. For those of you who perhaps speak light language, you can do that. just a little kind of insight. So I usually channel this frequency in light language form, and I channeled specifically frequency that will heal the shadows when it comes to expression, because people were wanting to express themselves, step up, do things online. So I downloaded a specific frequency that will heal and bring up to the surface any unhealed pain and trauma which is blocking people's expression. So this is very specific. So it's not like we're gonna, because you couldn't in one sitting just get all of the pain and trauma from all of your life all in one go. But if you're looking at one aspect, we could have said, let's heal anything to do with I don't know, rejection, or let's do anything to do with I don't know, some other aspect.
Yeah. So you need to have a rough idea of what aspect you're trying to heal. So either it's going to be an area of your life, or you're going to know the wounds and stuff. And this is why you journal and investigate. So if I'm having a client session with somebody, a big part of that session is investigating, and it's going back through, okay, what's coming up for you? What are the things that hurt you? Let's go back, and talking about these kinds of things. I'm making a note of all this stuff at the same time. And then what will happen is, when it comes to channeling the healing frequency, I would connect to, in this example, the Arcturian collective consciousness. I would program in. I am programming this frequency, and I would set my intention around each of those areas of shadows. Before I pull the frequency and channel it, I'm programming it, right? And I want to give you a little bit of a behind the scenes of, how powerful this stuff is. And,
Oh yeah.
So,
but by the way, we nicknamed this frequency. We've got a nickname for it. We call it Arcturian or Pleiadian or Syrian codes of bitter medicine.
oh God, yeah.
When Arcturians first gave us this frequency, they called it just codes of inner healing. It's actually inner healing, but our nickname is codes of bitter medicine. And those of you who either work with us individually or are about to or have gone through with us through a 6-month process, which we call transcending dimensions, we use this frequency a lot, and everybody knows codes of bitter medicine because it is exactly that. It's like
they're getting quite these codes of bitter medicine are getting quite famous now. People are kind of like knowing this stuff, and anybody who's been through our programs or anyone I've healed with this, if you just said, do you know about the codes of bitter medicine? They'd be like, oh my God, yes.
So it's like the energetic ayahuasca, only and without any kind of, let's say, physical symptoms. You're not going to be running to the toilet. It is not going to be coming from you, but it's just going to be coming from you energetically.
So basically, I'll give you behind the scenes as a sort of practitioner. And I remember a very good friend of mine, and I'm sharing it with you, a lesson that I learned from this. And it's something that I take into all of the sessions where I heal people. And I remember a very good friend of mine, and he'd been through a difficult situation when he was younger. And he carried it with him through his life. And he kind of opened up to me one day. And I said, look, if you don't mind, he was open-minded. And I said, look, I do channel energy and stuff. I would love the opportunity to kind of try and help you with it. And he said, yeah, sure, that's fine. So basically, I went round to his house, and he had a sort of a meditation room, if you like, in his house. And, I'm quite a stocky guy, I guess. I'm not a tiny guy, but he's quite a stocky guy too. And he had this tiny sort of meditation sofa, this little sofa, 2-seater in his meditation room, right? And so I administered these codes of bitter medicine to him while I'm sat next to him, hip to hip and shoulder to shoulder like this. And I was just kind of blasting him in this frequency and sending it into his field, programmed in. And that was fine. And so we finished the session. A couple of days later, I started purging emotionally, and I was like, what on earth is going on here? It hit me like a ton of bricks one morning, and I was like, this doesn't make sense. Well, I opened up, I connected to the Arcturians. I was like, look, guys, can you just tell me, what's going on? And essentially, I got a taste of my own medicine. So I was administering this frequency to him, but I'm sat shoulder to shoulder, and I was absorbing some of it too, and I didn't.
And by the way, that doesn't happen just in the offline settings, in the online settings. It happened to us many times whenever we are administering this frequency, especially when we do it like over and over client sessions or group sessions or in transcending dimensions. very often it hits us. For me, I think the most kind of remembered one was I was starting to promote my program. Back then, it was the first time I was doing it. It was my business or like spiritual business program called Radiance. And the first like a promotional webinar when I was presenting this program to the world, I did that. This codes of bitter medicine that were helping people to unblock the expression. And people had amazing kind of feedback and testimonials. People for the first time managed to speak up in relationships and friends and business. It was incredible. But I got hit with my own medicine and I was purging. So rather than the first week of kind of promoting this brand new, beautiful offering, being enthusiastic, I'm like feeling like I want to curl up on myself and go to bed. And that is what is happening, by the way, when we talk to shadow work. You have to have a lot of grace to yourself because it can get worse before it gets better. So, for example, when we're talking about being sensitive and walking wounded, when you're opening those old wounds, expect that it's not going to be, smelling of roses. It's going to be very difficult. You're going to be fragile. So when we administer this galactic frequency, we also shield people with other galactic frequency to make sure that when they are at this most vulnerable, it's safe. So just to kind of maybe sum it up, we would recommend if you go on your own, then the safest way to do is this analog way where it's based on introspection. Maybe you can even start this shadow work by looking, okay, what is my biggest block at the moment? Or let's say it's abundance or it's money block. Okay, so why am I feeling this block around finances? And you asking yourself why, or you may be observing yourself. When am I becoming overreactive? What is upsetting me? Why have I been like that? And then you start digging, and then you start maybe journaling, and maybe you go to your younger self. I would recommend that if you go on your own, that's the way to go. If you want to go like the galactic route, then we invite you on board the Transcending Dimensions program, which is a 6-month journey. We'll be using both methods, but a lot of the galactic methods, only because it is safer. We have a duty of care, and we wouldn't be throwing cold of bitter medicine like kind of out there when we kind of guide people into integration, because all of the activations, all of the galactic work, all of the kind of frequency that maybe agitates your energy field, so that starts releasing all that pain and trauma, there is also this integration stage, and it's really important to do it with care, with understanding, and understand that, there may be a bit of fragile moments, but the point of it is it shouldn't last forever. So if you are going through this shadow work, and I think this is one of the last points I want to make, is if you go into the shadow work, you're not going there forever. So don't be afraid that now you're going to be like digging and swimming in this kind of horrible frequency of pain, trauma, and hurt, and that is just going to be it. And no, you go in there to heal it and to come out the other end victorious. You don't have to go there again. It's almost like you're taking those shackles and you're leaving them behind.
I don't know about summing it up. I've got more to add.
Talking.
I just wanted to kind of explain about the whole sort of purge and how that.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So basically just, the sort of lesson I was giving you from behind the scenes there is now we've learned that we have to consciously block ourselves as facilitators from being affected by the frequency, because as facilitators...
And it doesn't 100% work.
Sometimes it doesn't, but it's better than not having any kind of declaration in the field. So what will happen, how the mechanics of it, once that energy is being programmed under very safe and controlled circumstances, so it's a very protected, controlled environment that I do this in, what we would do, and it's completely shielded with quantum architecture, what we would do is I would guide a person to open their field up around about the crown chakra area. And then what I would do is I would channel in this programmed energy from the collective consciousness group. And what I would do is administer this, and I'd just kind of send it into someone's field. it almost comes in, cascades down somebody's chakras, and then it just makes its way into the body and into the organs and starts to stir up all of the stuff that it's been programmed to stir up. And that will last for a certain, the channel transmission will last for a certain length of time. And then under the very safe, controlled circumstances, I would get the person to close their field down again around the crown chakra area. So you couldn't have somebody leave a session with an open field. That would kind of be quite dangerous. So, you know, it's opened under very, very controlled, safe circumstances, and it's closed down again under very protective circumstances. But what's happened is then that person has that galactic frequency within their field and organs stirring up the stuff it needs to. And what it does, it stimulates what I call the purge, the emotional purge. And this is where these timelines get condensed and the process of healing gets condensed because it all starts to come up. Now, it may not come up after the first dose of bitter medicine. You may need 3 or 4 over a process to kind of get it all up and get it gone. However, what will happen is somebody's field reacts typically within a few days.
Sometimes it happens right there and then on the session. We've had that.
I've had people that I've administered this to who have just erupted in the moment, and all of these emotions start coming up and they're expressing tears and all of this.
Sometimes it's 2 weeks.
It can happen. It can happen immediately. It can happen in a few days. It can happen after a couple of weeks. But everyone's field reacts differently. But once it starts, it starts. And then what will happen is, over a period of days or weeks or whatever, people are just purging. And all of this kind of pain frequency is leaving their body.
And literally, if you are sensitive to energy, it feels like an energetic vomit. Sorry to say that, but you just feel like...
It almost feels like it's coming up out of your chest like this.
Sometimes you feel there's like... And I think depending on the different trauma and pain, and sometimes ancestral feels different than your own, and a karmic feels different than your own. It's sometimes you feel a heavy frequency around your head. Sometimes you feel like something's coming out of your chest. Sometimes you feel some burning in your throat. All sensations are normal.
So there's back to what we said at the beginning, there's 2 ways of doing it. You can journal and go through more of a process. That's the analog, traditional way. So if you want to think of, sort of analogies, think of it like tape, cassette, and VHS and vinyl. That's one way of doing it. Nothing wrong with that. Vinyl is amazing if you want to listen on the record player. However, we're in 2023, 2024. We've got access to quantum tools and galactic frequency. The modern way of doing it, I would say that I've kind of pioneered, is kind of streaming from Spotify and streaming from the internet your music. So that's basically it. But the outcome is the same.
The outcome is the same. And either way, you're not going to get away from introspection. Either way, there's no bypassing. Even with the kind of galactic way, you still will realize it. It will just happen really quickly. It's almost like you will enter that acceleration. However, you will have to go there just once. And I always say that to the clients, especially when people have gone through really difficult stuff, we only go in there once. We only go in there to heal. We're not going to be going there again, which is very different from, let's say, mainstream, psychology, when people are kind of going over and over and over for years to the same therapist. It's like we don't subscribe to that kind of method. Of course, everybody has the right to the journey. The journey also, just to add, is never linear. Usually from our experience, your energetic field will be opening up in the order of priority. So we will be giving and presenting you usually from the heaviest stuff first, and then it gets lighter and easier, with the exception of sometimes you feel like you've kind of stripped so many layers and deep down sits some kind of massive pattern, massive kind of thing, and you uncover it. Oh my goodness me, I can't believe that's been holding me back.
It is a beautiful process.
It is a beautiful process with beautiful results. You should start feeling more free, happy,
enlightened, unconditional love for everybody and everything. This is the prize. This is the prize that you're kind of working towards.
So if you're in that purge stage, if you're like in this I don't know, I can't see an end. Also, there is, I would say, there is an end to it. Of course, we never 100% healed, because if we were, we would be here, like a Jesus or Buddha. But we not. We're still human beings. So that we will always have some human emotions, and things that are meant to upset us will upset us. So I don't know, someone a while ago hurt my dog, and of course it upsets me. I mean, I cannot, it's not because I've got pain and trauma from the past. It's just an unfair thing to do, and it upsets me, but you bounce back.
But you return to neutrality pretty quickly. Yeah. So yes, you're an emotion. We're all emotional creatures. So it doesn't mean that all of a sudden you're not going to emotionally react to stuff. But it just means that, yes, okay, perhaps you feel angry in the moment, but pretty quickly that dissipates and you just come back to that unconditional love. That's healing.
That's healing for you, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you've got any questions about anything we've covered, anything about shadow work, or kind of any aspect that we maybe, any rabbit hole that you want to explore, please pop them in the comments. We'll be happy to keep an eye on them and answer whenever they appear. And we want to encourage you not to give up. Keep on going. It is so worth it.
Again, don't forget to subscribe. Please click the icon at the top. Stay up to date with the videos. We do run every year our flagship Ascension program called Transcendent Dimensions. A big part of that is healing. And we use Galactic Frequency. We work with people one-on-one. Please reach out to our website for more information.
We just drop a link there.
Just kind of check it out. We do have a waiting list, but however, the doors are open for registration for 2024. So if you're catching this video in time, you've got a chance to get involved in that.
If not, next year.
It's all good. It's all good.
Thank you so much, and see you on the next episode.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Architects of Destiny podcast. Be sure to subscribe, and we will see you on the next episode.
What would your most abundant life look like? You have to get really intimate and introspective with your own energetic field and with your ancestors and with your soul. The greatest energetic shifts that translate to immediate changes in physical reality come from deactivating and from letting go. It's activating your soul's essence, your highest expression, your most abundant, beautiful timeline means deactivating layers of conditions, stopping your full potential.